Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar entitled Harvesting Nature's Bounty, the Sarawak Story. This is the fourth webinar in the series under the overall topic, Women, Water, Climate, Tackling the Challenges. This webinar series and conference is made possible with a grant from the Stockholm Environment Institute, and we are very grateful for their support. My name is Sarada Narayanan, and I am the National Representative of Malaysia at Soroptimist International of the Southwest Pacific. I am also the Project Director of the Sarawak case study, which was implemented to bring clean, potable water to a remote village in Sarawak, East Malaysia. Today, we have an exciting panel of speakers consisting of Joanne Yeoh, who will be the case presenter, Dr. Salmah Zakaria, who will be our expert discussant, and Afan Nasaruddin, who will provide the youth perspective. I will be your moderator. I would like to inform you all that this webinar will be recorded and will be available on YouTube at the Eventbrite website after the event. There will also be an opportunity for participants to ask some questions, and we will do our best to answer them all if time permits. Please type your questions in the Q&A box. We will now show you a short 5-minute video of the case study, after which Joanne Yeoh will make a presentation. Thank you.
Logging, dam construction and deforestation is threatening the indigenous tribes in Sarawak, Malaysia, of the forests on which they depend on. One such village is Kampung Long Tanit, a Penan village remotely located in the district of Belaga. It takes 8 hours on logging tracks via a 4-wheel vehicle from Peat to Lu. In addition, the village does not benefit from the Murum Dam, as the village does not have electricity nor clean potable water. There is no electricity, clean water, sanitation, nor a clinic in Long Tanit. The nearest primary school and clinic is located in Sungai Asam, which is 4 hours away. The population amounts to 300 villagers, most of whom are women and young children, as many of the young men have left the village to look for greener pastures and jobs in the cities. The children are undernourished and often suffer from sore eyes, skin diseases, and diarrhea, a leading cause of death of children under 5 in Malaysia. The second village is Kampung Gana, which comprises over 3,000 residents relocated from 10 villages in the jungle interior. The villagers have to buy water when drought happens. It was decided to implement rainwater harvesting and improving their current dam gravity-fed system. Gutters were constructed and storage tanks were installed in Long Tanit for use in the dry season. In the true spirit of gotong royong, or helping one another, the villagers helped the contractor to fix the gutters and mount the water tanks. These gutters were then connected to blue water tanks, also used as storage tanks during the drought season. From the blue tanks, pipes were connected to filters before being channeled to each home for consumption. As part of their practical training, the 5 Penan girls welded the stands for the water tanks and helped to connect the pipes. In Sabah, the project was officially launched by the Deputy Chief Minister in January 2019 in Kota Kinabalu. In Kampung Gana, meetings were held with the women villagers of Persatuan Wanita Kampung Gana to initiate planning for the organic farming. These 35 village women who were then trained in organic farming methods. The training took place every 2 weeks for a period of 3 months, and they were taught the basics of organic farming, including composting, making organic or biological fertilizers, and pesticides and crop rotation. Since May 2019, each woman was given 6 raised beds to plant vegetables, and harvest proceeds accrue to her. The total acreage is extended to over 5 acres. The women have also started their own pilot mushroom farm. They produce enough vegetables now for their own families and extra for sale. In Long Tanyut, 6 women and the project coordinator completed a 10-day course of training in organic farming at the Frangipani Organic Farm in Gombak, Kuala Lumpur. These 6 women have in turn taken the initiative to train another 20 women who are all eager to learn and participate in farming activities. It is expected that over time, all 120 women and girls in Long Tanyut will benefit and work in a farm or will be involved in food processing, marketing and distribution. The vegetables are growing well. The women have now produced enough vegetables for the village and started selling the extra to neighboring villages and the workers in the nearby logging camp. The women formed a committee and take turns to do the farming, while others stay behind to look after the small children collectively and cook for remaining family members.
As you can all see, I think you'll agree that it was an enlightening and interesting video that really showed women taking charge and managing their own lives in remote locations. While the video showed 2 villages, one in Sarawak as well as in Sabah, for the purposes of today's discussion, we will focus on the Sarawak village, also known as Long Tanyut. I now call upon Joanne Yeoh to present the case. Joanne Yeoh wears many hats. She has been a Soroptimist for several years and is the current Assistant Membership Convener for Asia at Soroptimist International of the Southwest Pacific. She is also my colleague and the project manager of SI Region of Malaysia's initiative, Clean Water for Rural Communities. In addition, she is the current president of YWCA Malaysia. Joanne has a background in investment banking, public relations, and training, and has a passion and interest in the area of education, with a focus on helping financially and emotionally challenged young people and girls to help them realize their full potential. Joanne, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarada. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Sharing with you the Sarawak story, Harvesting Nature's Bounty. Susie, can I please have the presentation slides? Okay. Next. Deforestation. Next. Logging. Next. Climate change. Next. Has polluted valuable sources of drinking water and threatened the rich biodiversity of the land, depriving the people of their land and livelihoods in East Malaysia, i.e., that is Sarawak and Sabah. Many rural villages in East Malaysia lack access to a regular supply of clean water for drinking and cooking. So in April of 2018, with funds provided by the Soroptimist International President's Appeal, Soroptimist International Region of Malaysia, or SIROM for short, launched a project entitled Clean Water for Rural Communities to address the lack of clean water in 2 rural villages in Malaysia. The first project was implemented in Kampung Long Tanyut, Lembaga District of Sarawak, while the second was implemented in Kampung Ghana, Kota Marudu, Sabah, with sponsorship from Heineken Malaysia. Next. As Radha has mentioned, for the purpose of this webinar, we will focus on Kampung Long Tanyet in Sarawak, which is home to around 300 Penang villages. Kampung Long Tanyet is located actually in the middle of nowhere, a locked over forest area, and it's so remote it takes 8 hours drive from Bintulu along logging tracks to get to the village. There's no clean water, no electricity, no sanitation and cleaning. And ironically, Burum Dam, which is only an hour's drive from the village, but the village has no electricity. The river that runs through the village is heavily polluted due to logging activities, and the village had to obtain water from a spring located about 2 kilometers from the village. The Penang villagers forage in the forest for their food, but due to logging, they had to look for other ways for their livelihood. The village now has mostly older men, women and girls, as the young men have left to find jobs in the big cities. It was these young men who approached SIROM to see how we could help to bring the amenities. Next slide. So in phase 1, we implemented the rainwater harvesting and improving their current dam, which is your gravity-fed system. So the objectives of phase 1 were to bring clean water to the community, improve the health and well-being of the villagers, especially to bring down the incidence of diarrhea and sore eyes, to assist to bring water to phase 2, which is the organic farming, and preserve the biodiversity of the land. Next. So what were our strategies? Soroptimist, we adopted the 3E strategy, which has worked well. The 3 E's mean educate, empower, enable. We started with training for the women, and once they were empowered, the women now felt that they could make decisions and have a voice in the community. Next. Next, Susie. How did we plan and design the project? So the first thing in any project is the buy-in. And we had the buy-in from the villagers because the young men approached us. Then it was so important that the villagers have ownership of the project, although we brought in a contractor to help with it. The next thing we did was to appoint the assistant head man as the project coordinator. The village is so remote that there was no way SIROM could be at the site the entire time monitor. So the project coordinator kept us informed what the villagers, especially the men, wanted to do, what resources they needed, and what they wished to achieve. So drawing up roles and responsibilities, budget for manpower and materials between the contractor, the villagers, and SIROM enabled the team to be all on the same level. Next. The villagers worked in the spirit of what we call gotong royong, or working together. They worked with a contractor to rebuild the existing dam, connect the water pipes, and bring the water to the villagers' homes 2 kilometers away. They also worked with a contractor to install gutters on the roofs of their longhouses and connected the gutters to blue water tanks. Filters were installed to provide clean water for drinking and cooking, and the women were educated on personal hygiene and water conservation. Water tanks were also installed to store water for irrigation and for use during periods of drought. Next. So how did we empower the women? Next slide, Susie. Before we implemented the project, no, the slide before, empowering the women, one slide before. Before we implemented the project, we were informed that the women were mainly concerned about cooking, looking after the children and their families. It is common for the women to spend their time, next slide, Susie, not on the right slide. It is common for the women to spend their time gathering and chatting, like you see in the picture in the presentation. Girls are usually married off from the age of 17, and by the time they reach 25 years old, they would have already given birth to at least 3 children. Our aim was to empower the women to take on leadership roles in the village and take a major role in phase 2,
to generate income by taking care of the organic farming. I just want to highlight an incident during one of our early visits when we asked the wife of the assistant headman a question. And the wife looked at the husband and hoping that she had given the right answer. So this was how the women were before we implemented the project. Next slide. We also empowered 5 girls who left the village to pursue a welding course in Peninsular Malaysia, to empower them to be welding inspectors. SIROM subsidized their diploma in welding, and while pursuing their diploma, they went back to their village to help to weld the stands for the rainwater harvesting system and help to connect pipes. If the girls were not upskilled to diploma, they would not have become now welding inspectors. They have now broken the glass ceiling in a very male-dominated industry. For any project to be impactful, it is very important to have like-minded organizations working with you. And in this case, SI Presence Appeal helped to fund 80% of the project costs, while SIROM raised money from CIMB Foundation and other sponsors. Master Weld Academy was the welding academy where the 5 Penang girls pursued their welding course. Frangipani Natural Farm trained the women and project coordinator in organic farming. Next. For phase 2 in the organic farming, the first thing needed was education. In the beginning, the girls were to return to their village and help to set up and run the organic farm. But as they were already gainfully employed, each girl nominated a woman member from their family to go for training in organic farming. So 6 men and the project coordinator spent 10 days in Frangipani Farm in Kuala Lumpur, learning about organic farming. When they returned, again in the spirit of gotong royong, the men and women cleared 5 acres of land diagonally opposite their village for organic farming, supported by funding from SI Presence Appeal. They have successfully planted and harvested several crops, including leafy greens, okra, long beans, brinjal, corn, and watermelon. The 6 women leaders have in turn trained another 20 village women in farming methods. Next. Now all 120 women and girls in Long Chanyet work in the farm and generate income. The vegetables are growing well. The women have now produced enough vegetables for the entire village and started selling the extra to neighboring villages and the workers in the nearby logging camp. Through the project, the women and girls are being empowered to make their own decisions and participate in the decision-making process in their community. They now have a voice and they're not afraid to speak up. For instance, they have requested us to help build a shelter for them on the farm so that they can rest and store their farming equipment. The women have also drawn up a duty roster for themselves and take turns to work in the fields, while others stay back at home to mind the children and cook for their families. Next. This particular project has been impactful as it has addressed 6 of the SDGs. Number 1, no poverty. Number 2, zero hunger. Number 3, good health and well-being. Number 4, which is quality education. Number 5, gender equality. And number 6, clean water and sanitation. Next. So what were the other impact and outcomes? In summary, the project has yielded the following outcomes. 300 villages now have clean water. We noticed the drop in the incidence of diarrhea and sore eyes, especially amongst the children. The 5 Penang girls are now gainfully employed as welding inspectors and supporting their families. All the 120 women and girls are now involved in the organic farm and generating income. The women are now empowered to make decisions and speak up. Next. So what were the limitations and challenges of this project? The remote location and the lack of infrastructure was a main challenge. The cost of transport busted our project budget and contributed to huge cost overruns. No communication in the village meant that the project coordinator must go to the logging camp 30 minutes away to contact us, and WhatsApp the invoices and the messages, or to Bintulu 8 hours, or to drive to Bintulu 8 hours away just to get supplies. The male dominance and female subservience culture in the village resulted in the women being afraid to speak up. But with education and empowerment of the women, this limitation was overcome. The logging and deforestation resulted in the loss of livelihood of the villagers and caused young men and girls to leave their village to work in the cities. Climate change has also been a challenge. Let me illustrate. Next. During heavy downfall, the roads would always get flooded and blocked, and the villagers would have to postpone their road trips. Due to changes in weather patterns, the village suffered from unusual drought periods and inclement heavy downpours, resulting in March and April of this year, havoc to the organic farm. The dam overflowed, as you can see from the pictures, causing floods to the organic farm, destroying crops and vegetables, and even knocked down the fencing. So the dam had to be repaired, vegetables replanted, and the fencing repaired. Next. The last slide, Susie. Thank you everyone for giving us the opportunity to share with you the Sarawak story. And echoing Matt Damon, you will never solve poverty without solving water and sanitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. I think you can all agree that that was a wonderful, inspiring story. I am so proud of the women in Long Tanyit for rising up to the challenge and pulling themselves out from a rut that they were in and really doing something to change the focus and the future of their lives. As you can see, it was not without challenges. So maybe that is something we can discuss later during the Q&A because I see a few questions popping up. Our next speaker will be Dr. Salmah Zakaria. And Salmah, you'll have 10 minutes to speak. Dr. Salmah is the chair of the Academy of Sciences in Malaysia Water Committee. She has several years' experience in the water sector and was responsible for drafting the strategic paper on water sector transformation for the 12th Malaysia Plan in 2019. She has served the government of Malaysia in various departments for more than 30 years and later worked in UN SCAP Bangkok for 7 years. Dr. Salmah has a degree in engineering, a postgraduate diploma in hydraulics from the IHE Delft Institute for Water Education in the Netherlands, and a PhD in Deep Peat Field Water Management from Cranfield University, UK. Dr. Salmah, please give us your expert opinion and ideas about this project and what we can do to improve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarada. Can I have the first map? Yeah, here we will look at the Long Tanyit with reference to Malaysia. Next. First, I would like to thank Joanne and Soroptimist International and other similar NGOs for helping in you know, sometimes things just fall through the gap. So normally these very remote areas tend to be out of the sight of the planners. Can I, as you can see, there is this range in the center of Borneo, where Sarawak is to the north. And as you can see, Sarawak is about the same size as Peninsular Malaysia. Next, please. Malaysia is actually made up of small river basins totaling more than 2,700. The bigger river basin units comes up to only 189. And you can see that in Sarawak, we have 22 major river basin units. Next slides, please. The pink one is the River Rajang, or what they call Batang Rajang in Sarawak. And that's the biggest of the river basins in Malaysia. And you will see next, in the next slide please, that Long Tanyit is really very deep in the near the border with Indonesia, and almost at the end, near the upstream of the Batang Rajang. And the details, as you can see, of the Bakun Dam is not that far away from Long Tanyit. The Murun Dam is even nearer, but they are all, in a sense, downstream from Long Tanyit. You have the river that flows just beside Long Tanyit, being a tributary of the Balui River. So again, it's really very upstream. And the logging area that I think Joanne was talking about is further upstream, nearer the border. As you can see, Long Tanyit is only 37 kilometers from Murun Dam. And the Iran range, just on the border, is about 1,300 to 1,500 meters. Next, please. So in terms of climate and climate change, Sarawak has equatorial climate, with temperature ranging between 23 degrees centigrade and 32 degrees centigrade. In highlands area, it can be as cold as 11 degrees in some nights. The northeast monsoon, usually between November and February, brings heavy rain. So, and while the southwest monsoon from June to October is usually milder. As you can see, the average rainfall is very high. Compared to about 800 millimeters in Europe, you're talking about here 3.3 meters to 4.6 meters, depending on the locality where Sarawak is concerned. Humidity is consistently high. From the report, the National Communication Report number 3 to UNFCCC, it is observed that there are increasing trends of 1.3 degrees centigrade to 0.24 degrees centigrade per decade over the last 4 decades. But there is a slight trend in observed rainfall with a slight decrease in Peninsula, but an increasing trend in rainfall in Singapore, in Sarawak. But the flood that you can see just now, as highlighted by Joanne, is probably due to the clearance of the forest. Now we talk about what we are planning for the future for Malaysia. Our 12th Malaysia Plan will be coming in next year and will end in 2025. Prior to that, we already have 11th Malaysia Plan. The target for the 12th, the objectives for the and the target for the 12th Malaysia Plan is to ensure water security and sustainability, as well as to provide economic opportunity within the water sector. And because of the work of many of our NGOs, we are now looking at the drivers being the people. And when we say people, we are also including the NGOs as well as the communities. Generally, the communities in the interior, deep interior, may not be aware what are the aids available to them. So we depend a lot on the NGOs for these areas. Even in Peninsula, where in the center of the Peninsula, the central spine, there are people there, the orang asal, who are still needing some help. And there are 2 ministries that seems to be somehow not connected to the people. These are the Ministry of Health, which looks into the water supply in some of the areas, as well as the Ministry of Rural Development, which helps in the development of these very remote settlements. And we move forward in the 12th Malaysia Plan to look at the governance, information and research development, commercialization and innovation, the finance side. How can we finance some of these things? And we are recommending that even for the communities and the NGO, there should be some location of financing, and of course the infrastructure development. These have not yet been accepted, so we are waiting for it to be launched. It was supposed to be launched last August, but we are anticipating it will be launched in January. We are anticipating that this thing, most of the things that I'm mentioning would be something to be looked forward to. And I think we have to understand that when you go to rural settlements, the women are normally the one that are, they being the primary caregivers, are the one that are left behind in the village to look after the family while the man moves out. That also happens in Peninsular Malaysia 30 years ago. So we need to see that we jumpstart some of the things that are happening in rural Sabah and rural Sarawak. Next slide, please. I think that's all. So I await for any questions that may come to you that you need clarification. Thank you.
Great, Salmah, thank you for that eye-opener. I mean, I am happy to note that the government has got good plans in the future. I hope they will be implemented along the lines that you have suggested. And I perceive that funding will be a big problem, but I hope that's where the corporates can also chip in and do something. It is now time for our young water professional, Afan Nasaruddin. Afan is the co-founder of University Malaya's Water Warriors. His interests include water bodies restoration, sustainable innovation, and environmental education. He is currently undertaking research on place-based citizen science for two rivers in West Malaysia, namely the Sungai Klang and the Sungai Selangor river basins in Selangor. Together with his wife, Asia, and the community group, he also co-founded Inspirasi Kawa, a youth environmental club in Kuala Selangor. Now, Kuala Selangor is located about 80 kilometers from Kuala Lumpur. He has a string of awards to his name. Afan has a Bachelor of Science in Applied Geology and a Master of Environmental Management. Afan, I now invite you to give us your views on where you see youth can contribute to the water sector and what you hope to see in the future, maybe 15, 20 years from now.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Sarada, for the kind introductions and the organizer for inviting me to give a youth perception. First of all, I would like to congratulate Joanne and her team for doing such amazing work. Not everyone willing to travel that far remote area, not just to help to improve the community, but to also to empower them. That's make these projects quite impactful, and I really inspired. I wish I can be part of this project in the future. Allow me to give some inputs and suggestions for the project for further improvement. I have few points, and the first one is women and the community. For Kampung Long Tanit, we need to highlight that the women are the key groups and the glue for the community. While the men leave the village to look job in the city, leaving the women to take care not just their family, but also the village itself. Their responsibility are more and huge compared to men. No argument there. To see how they grow from just a housewife to a key person for a community who have a say in the community it is a very powerful story. And for the girls who have the skill for welding are really, really impressive because not all men can do that. Even I'm afraid to hold the welder. But to make a community to work together and live more sustainably, everybody needs to play a role. Doesn't matter whether man, woman, youth, or even small kids. Everybody plays very important roles. We can see how the spirit of the community during the installation of the gravity-fed water system and the rainwater harvesting system. This is what I meant, help each other around. Point number 2 is water. I'm sure not everybody in Malaysia knows about this water situation in Kampung Long Tanit because we always take our water for granted. Just open the tap, the water is there. But when we have water cuts due to the pollution or maintenance work, we gone crazy. We start pointing fingers to everyone. But for the community of Kampung Long Tanit, it is part of their daily life. Even though they live just next to the rivers, is Linau River, the water source not from there because the river is too polluted with suspended solid due to the deforestation and logging. The river is too muddy, or in Malaysia we call teh tarik, milk tea. So they get the water 2 kilometers from the village using gravity-fed system. If the system is not working, they need to maintain by themselves. Basically, they need to travel again 2 kilometers to fix it. Unlike us who live in urban cities, just pick up the phones and call the water company to fix it. Rainwater harvesting is one of the best options to solve water issue in the village. But during dry season, the community might have problems. Sometimes no rain to harvest, the spring might be dry, and what left is just a muddy water in the next village. Also, another option is, most probably this is my suggestion, another option is to explore groundwater as an alternative water source. But we know that the water quality from the groundwater much better compared to the river. Nevertheless, we need to study the geology of the place and conduct field tests. In terms of sustainability, groundwater is one of the best solutions. If you can see, in the daily life, women use more water than men. They need to use to wash their clothes, cleaning, cooking, and farming. But they're really careful and conserve the amount of water they use. Unlike men, sometimes they use more water than they use water much
Is that okay?
All right, okay. they use more water than enough. For example, for Kampung Long Tanit, Joanne shared with me that some of the men use treated rainwater harvesting rainwater just to wash their motorcycles. What wasteful! So education and awareness need to be highlighted for everyone on conserving the water. It believed that if women have improved access to water for domestic use and agriculture production, they have more time to start market gardens or income generating activities, and it turn to improve the diets and income for the household, as well become more involved in the governance structures that shape the community. Kampung Long Tanit is one of the examples. The third point is the climate. Like Dr. Salmah says, climate change is real. No doubt, no question. We have to look into if we look back into the meteorological data, suppose in Malaysia, in the past few years, we have dry season currently. Then we add on with the haze problem. But today, we have rain almost every day. And some part of the state in Malaysia, such as Sabah, getting flooded recently. So climate change has changed our weather pattern and way of living. Deforestation and logging happening around the area become the catalyst for climate change for the village. Furthermore, in terms of farming activity, the community need to adapt with the climate change climate pattern and also strategy, the type of plants and vegetables that's suitable for the production they produce so that it's optimized. And lastly, the fourth point is I'm glad that Dr. Salmah said that the upcoming 12th Malaysian Plan, people are the drivers, are we considered in a major factor in water transformation. Well done for the Malaysian governments. I'm really eager to see the significant change in water sectors in Malaysia. As we already in the end of year 2020, I personally have a mixed feeling to see the situation like Kampung Long Tanit, where basic amenities such as clean water, sanitation, infrastructure as roads, even internet connectivity is still way far left behind. For your information, Sarawak is the top 5 richest state in Malaysia based on the GDP, but not everyone in Sarawak share those prosperities. For example, when the state built the Muru Dam for the hydroelectricity in 2008, which is quite controversial, where there's some local community need to be relocated and removal of rainforest due to the construction. But after the completion of the dam in 2014, the community nearby, such as Kampung Long Tanit, still don't have the electricity. They didn't benefit the developments that state have been built. So based on my finding, in 2019, the state government installed solar panel to generate the electricity for the Kampung Long Tanit. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne. It took many years for the community to get a proper electricity. So another example is the logging activity in the area. The community used to go to the forest to find food, even to catch fish in the river. For them, the forest is a big refuge. But due to the logging activity, they were forced to change. The logging company did not even bother to help the community. So therefore, we need to take a step back and do some reflection when someone say this project is for people benefit. Is the project actually for the people or for the other peoples? So in the world we are living where money is very important, we can see many youth leave the village to seek for job or yet further education. We can't stop them because without better infrastructure in the village, we cannot force them to stay. If the trend is going to be like this for the next 20 to 30 years, it's quite a big loss. Who's going to take care of the village? Is the village still will still be there, or is going to be another logging site? So for those who seek job or further their education in the city, please do not forget your village, your origin. There is a proverb in Malay saying, "Sirih pulang ke ganggang." Help them as much as you can. Send money to them, transfer your knowledge to them, empower them to improve the village. I hope to see the project in Kampung Long Tanit to be continued and become an inspiration to other community in Malaysia and to the world. Just a quick one, I would like to share my humble experience in engaging an urban community or campus community in restoration of lake in the campus. Susie, can you have the slide? So I'm the co-founder of Water Warriors. Water Warriors actually is a campus sustainability living lab for integrated water management in University Malaya. So basically, we started in 2013 from a grassroots movement. What we are doing are looking at the resources, which is conservation of water body on the campus, and also at demand sector, which is water consumption. And then we try to integrate them, thus provide a solution to the campus in the context, campus context first. If it is successful, we bring those solutions to outside community. That's how we work. So next. So this is the condition of the lake in 2013. It's very eutrophication due to the enrichment of nutrient. The lake is covered with algae, which limiting the dissolved oxygen content in the water, which lead to the massive fish kills. Even worse, part of the lake was covered with a blue-green algae, which is quite dangerous and smell terrible. The lake used to be full of trash. So in summary, in 2013, we declared that the lake is a dead lake. Nobody dare to come. When I started WfWP's project, I was a fresh graduate and working as a research assistant in Faculty of Science in 2013. I had the opportunity to visit Japan and presented a poster presentation about my work in Kuala Selangor. We did won the best presentation poster, but suddenly I got struck with an idea where how can I talk about amazing work that we've done in other places, but our own place was such a mess. It's quite embarrassing for myself and for the university. Next. Next. So when I went back and started a group so-called Water Warriors movement, we started to conduct a few citizen science programs such as monitoring the lake, the water quality of the lake and cleaning up the lakes. As we did that, the new top management at that time of developments called us and asked us to lead the restoration project together with other departments in the campus. The project started in 2014 and it finished about 10 to 11 months. We managed to include staff community from different backgrounds, different groups, academicians, staff, students, and even different faculties to be part of this project because we want the community to be proud and to culture that the sense of ownership. So next. And this is how the lakes look right now. You can see ducks swimming in the lakes, and now the community can kayak in the lakes. Next. Now that the lake is not just for recreational activity, but we managed to transform the lake into a living space where people, which is campus community and public, can learn about biodiversity of the lakes, learn about fish, and many more. So next one. So this is my last slide. So about our frameworks. So normally when we have a problem to solve a problem such as pollution or incident, we will be using engineering technologies or structures or so on. So we call it a hardware to solve it, to make it more stronger and to try to bind it with law, policy, or guidelines. So that I'm considered as a software. And we realized that hardware and software can be broken. So engineering can fail, policy can be just a nice document in the shelf. We realized that human element is the heart, is the element that is missing, what we call hardware. So hardware means an organic approach exercised by stakeholders or even the community based on the shared values of the place and love or care or certain sustainability issues. Something that can be felt by the heart that can motivate them to do something. So for those, we treat those ways, God willing, the project can be successful. All right, thank you.
Okay, Afan, thank you. I think you highlighted a lot of important issues. I think it is important, all three speakers have said that it is so important for the community to get involved and be the drivers of the project for it to be successful. And I think all our three panelists have emphasized that. We do have several messages of congratulations coming up, so a huge round of applause to all of you. In addition, there have been quite a few questions, so I'll see if we have about 20-25 minutes to get the questions answered if we can. And for those questions that we are unable to answer during this time frame, maybe you can email them to the speakers or to the website, and we will do our best to answer them in the near future. So I have with me, okay, from Marit Werhofkoen, how do the men react? This is something to you, Joanne. How do the men react to the new empowered women? Are they more respected, listened to?
think it's now a greater respect from the men towards the women. I don't think it's a case of they feel now they are feeling like the women on top of them. No, I think it's a much greater respect. And I think now the men and women see themselves as working together on the same level, working hand in hand. Because I just received some photographs yesterday of some of the vegetables that were growing well after they had redone their actual farm. And it was told that it was actually the men and the women together giving them this type of vegetables. So because they know at the end of the day, they're working together, not for their own good, but for the good of the whole entire village.
Okay. That's good to know. I think that's something that's an important point to remember. We are not there to suppress the men. We would like to be listened to, and we would like to participate on an equal footing.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. From I Love Binato to all panelists, but again, I think, Joanne, you should probably have the first go. Do the women have basic financial management skills, such as opening bank accounts and saving, or to plan for the future?
Do you know many of the girls, not so much the girls, it's the women. I had a chat with them, and many of them tell me that they all leave the school after their primary education. They don't go back to school for secondary education. It's only this generation of the 5 Penang girls that we see, they have been given the opportunity. So for them, they don't have financial management skills. So what do? This was something that we have already actually discussed with the assistant head man, our project coordinator. Moving forward, we had told him that the village must form a cooperative to help everyone, not only the women, but also the men and the other men as well. Set up a cooperative because moving forward, we want to help them to implement phase 3. What is phase 3? Phase 3 is marketing and processing. In fact, they even came out with their own logo for their future cooperative. And we hope that we will do this in the next time when the travel restrictions are lifted. We want to go back and do phase 3 with them.
Excellent. All right. So I do hope when COVID gives us a chance that we will be able to move forward with phase 3, which has kind of stalled for the time being. All right. I have another question. And again, I think this is to you from the UK. Thank you, Joanne, for your informative presentation. Is there funding available for more girls to achieve welding qualifications in future years?
Yes, there is. In fact, there are actually study loans from the government. What happened was that at a certain point, when the girls, these 5 Penang girls, who had just finished off their Malaysian skills certificate, the government stopped the funding. And so places like Academy, like Masterwell Academy, just suffered an 80% drop in their funding. And so we weren't sure whether the girls were going to be able to get funding for their diploma, for example. But thankfully, after that, the tap was turned again and the funds were available. But we also knew that the girls would be very, I would say, the minute you start a job, you got to pay back all your study loans. So in this case, what we did was we helped them to subsidize. We didn't give the whole lot. We only gave 50% to subsidize them, to upskill themselves to diploma. So yes, there are additional loans that are available, study loans available. So they can move on from a level 3, which the girls had, and they moved on to a diploma. And these are all from the government. Yeah.
All right. Yes. I think that is a useful point to note, that the government has provisions to provide loans to students pursuing courses. And I think in recent years, you'll all agree with me that the government has kind of changed its focus to vocational training. They do want to upskill and provide vocational training to make Malaysia a more skilled nation, because we have a heavy dependence on foreign labor in that area. I have another question to you, Joanne. You're a popular woman today. Are there opportunities for the welder girls to continue their trade in the same area? Interesting to see girls becoming technocrats, she says.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's technocrats, whether they would be able to be technocrats, but yes, there are actually other opportunities in the welding area. For example, they could become welding instructors. And what they could do is they can actually go on to further courses to improve themselves. If the girls were not given an opportunity to upskill themselves or even to come out from their village, they would not have known that there are other opportunities available. But now that they are already out there in this male-dominated industry, there are avenues, there are opportunities. The only thing I don't think the girls can be underwater welders. I think that's a little bit too much. That means you weld under the water, and not many people can actually take that. But welding instructors, yes, they can. They are already welding inspectors. They can move on to be trainers. They can be instructors as well.
Right. Okay. And I think this is to you, Salmah. Are the villagers asked for input in the Malaysia Plan of the government? In short, are they listened to?
They will be listened to if they talk. The problem is, I think Afan can also add on. The problem is that the villages are not exposed and therefore have not much experience and difficult to being very articulate. So that is why when we invite during our focus group discussion conferences and all those things, we invite the communities. They seldom come, but the NGOs came. And it is true, some of these NGOs, like Afan and his colleague, that we are hoping to build up the exposure of the local communities. I think the one in Sabah and Sarawak will be a different group altogether because they are really in the interior. And we have to improve accessibility for them to come out. Like what Joanne was saying, once they are exposed, then they know what is available. In Malaysia, I think we do not stop the ladies from going into whatever branch they want. I have a doctorate in engineering and I have never been stopped. So what we need is to expose the girls, on what are the things available for them. And for that, I think we do also depend a lot on the NGOs because the government agencies sometimes are not able to go into the interiors. I hope it answers your question, Ampai.
Interesting. Well, I think you've also mentioned, Salmah, just to highlight to the rest of the people listening in, that the preparation for the current Malaysia Plan include contributions from NGOs through which we hope to gain connections to communities, which is exactly what you said just now, that we go through the NGOs because the communities have no avenue or they don't know how to approach.
Exactly.
That was one of the issues I think, Joanne, you and I faced when we implemented the project.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, we had they need funding and they don't know where to go. But if you approach government departments, they will tell you, oh, there are lots of provisions for funds to help the B40 community. So there is this mismatch. Who is the connector? The government there, the community is here. They say the funds are available. The community says they got no funds. The one who connects is usually an NGO or civil society organization. So that's where I think we come in, but we don't have enough of representation at government meetings either as NGOs. So I think that is something that really we need to look into for going forward. I would say going forward.
We are also also trying to create Sarada. We are also trying to create more platforms, and these platforms can also be going through the religious groups like the churches, the masjids, and the temples. So let's see what is going to be launched in January, whether this will pick up. But currently we are developing modules for anybody to use. regardless. There's no need to pay whatever. So the moment the modules are ready, so anybody can use it to develop, you know, our own population, including those in the communities.
Excellent, excellent.
It's the first time that the government is looking from all the stakeholders. Previously, it was, you know, mostly looking from the experts and from the technical agencies. For the first times, almost from February to December of 2019, we have a total of 20 events where we connected with the expert, the stakeholders, and the communities and NGOs. We were reaching a total of more than 1,000 people to seek their ideas and their views, and hence, you know, the focus will be on the people as the drivers, and the need to create more platforms, budgets, things like that, in line with the SDGs, you know, the 17 SDGs. There are so many things that we are supposed to look into and to try to meet the targets.
Okay. There is another question addressed to you, Salmah, and it's from Susila. Is there provision in the 12th Malaysia Plan to improve the status of the indigenous people? Is there emphasis to approach them through their community leaders or just NGOs?
Currently, I think we are using the NGO to approach the community leaders, because the government side is rather limited in terms of manpower. I think from the moment that I first started to work to now, the connection with the NGO is a lot more better. And even, you know, there is this request even from government agencies for input, you know, not only from the NGOs, but from government agencies, the need for us to work in partnerships with everybody, and that includes the natives. This is their country too, and so therefore they deserve to have all the opportunities. Can we make it open for them? Can we provide the accessibility to them? I think we are equally responsible. We cannot depend only on the government agencies and the officers, because they have their own focus and targets. And we in the NGOs, I'm saying myself too in the NGOs, I think Afan know that we also have our own NGOs. We are also, you know, very interested in getting them on board.
Right, absolutely. So let's hope that going forward, Malaysia will indeed practice what it says it will, walk the talk, as we say. Afan, there is a question to you from Kusum Atukorala. Afan, what is your advice for engaging young water professionals in university, working with young people in remote communities? Sorry, let me say that again. What is your advice for engaging young water professionals in the university in working with young people in remote communities? Some of them may be coming from rural backgrounds themselves. What do you think?
I think the first one, you need a passion. Basically, like Joanne and her team, they have a passion to go to the remote areas, to spend times, and I think it's not just one-day trips, because the journey from Bintulu to the Kampung Notani is to take about 8 hours.
8 hours.
Yeah. So basically, if you are young water professionals and you want to make a difference for the rural community, you must have a passion. So sometimes working in NGOs, your payment is not really much. So that's the reason why the passion is quite important. If you are looking for a better salary jobs, NGOs might not be your platform. So yeah.
That is true, Afan. You mentioned hardware in your presentation.
Yes, that's yeah.
So they don't have the heart for this sort of thing. So
Yeah.
they may have the technology and they may have the hardware and the software, but they don't have the hardware to
Yes.
pull it off. All right, so that's an interesting viewpoint. It's something that maybe as a young water professional yourself, you should do, or help them, motivate them in some way. Tell them stories about how you got started so that they get out there and help the rural communities as well. I have a question from Leonie. A core element of long-term successful water and sanitation solutions on the ground is the need for joined-up partnerships, example with government, students, and NGOs working together. How has this occurred in the villages? Perhaps it's to you, Joanne, as well as Afan. You might want to say something.
Can I just relate to you how the team felt regarding working with the government? Okay? When we first started, like Sarada said, oh, there's money here, there's money there, you know. And I can tell you, even our National Oil Agency was promising us a sum of 10,000 ringgit, did a mock check ceremony. Until today, the money has never come. And if you look at the village has been forever been asking the Member of Parliament for a lot of things. You know, knowing that they don't have water, they don't have electricity, they have nothing. So what happened was that, just to share with you all, we wanted to do a constructed wetlands at the end of the village. Okay? And I think somebody also asked about the logging company, whether the logging company actually helps the villages. I think that's one question. Let me tell you how this all happened. We wanted to do constructed wetlands. We went to the logging company to ask them for a tractor to go and excavate. The logging company told us, you have to go to the ministry, the forestry ministry, okay? The forestry department. So we went to the forestry department to get approval. And we explained to the deputy director, and he was very supportive. He said, yeah, I think it's a good idea. I will write to my boss and get his boss to approve, which was the director. So the director sits in Kuching, okay? It's not even being told, he sits in Kuching. So the request went to him. Guess what happened? He got rejected. Because the people in the government are not on the ground. They're not knowing what is needed at the ground. So when you talk about government, if we had depended on the government for this project, we wouldn't have moved, okay? It was mainly the NGOs, in a way the students, but also like-minded organizations like CMB Foundation. So in many times when we want to do something like this, we have to think carefully to find out whether it's worthwhile for us to actually go in and ask government first before we even do the project. I'm glad we didn't. But also sharing with you what happened was that after we finished the clean water, the portable clean water, the member of parliament, okay, we told the assistant headman, go and see your member of parliament, bring him to show all the water, you know, the portable water we did. Maybe he'll give you something. So he brought the member of parliament. So guess what? The next thing they did, they didn't even talk about electricity. I kept asking them to ask for electricity. They said that, oh, you need a futsal field. What? I said, you need futsal? They need more electricity, more than futsal. No, we have to build a futsal court. So they did a futsal court. Then nothing happened. And remember, Sarada, we told him, go back and ask your member of parliament for electricity. I understand they might be giving you some solar. He did tell us about something like that. Then after that, they did actually gave him solar, didn't they? Yeah. So he needed something like a project, like something to kick it off for the government to wake up, you know, to tell them, hey, you better come back and do something for the project because you have never done it in the first place. And you know the water tanks, the blue water tanks that was in the video, the village told me that there was a big, massive project in Sarawak. They went to supply everywhere in Sarawak with these blue tanks. Guess what the contractor actually did? He did supply the blue tanks. He supplied the pipes, asked somebody to sign off and say that they got it. They actually received it and he went away. Nothing was connected. The blue tanks were languishing there until we came in. We said, we are going to recycle them and reuse them. So sorry, our experience with the government on this project has not been.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Lots of lessons to be learned from this project, but on the whole, good, because we learn from mistakes, and we learn from what we achieved, and we learn from what we didn't achieve as well. But I believe Leonie has raised a very good point. We really need to engage with all the different stakeholders. We need the villagers to be the main drivers of the project. I think you have all emphasized that. It must be a community-driven project. NGOs, we came in, actually, we provided the funding in this particular case, but NGOs can be the glue. Afan, you mentioned women as the glue. I really like that comment because I think you hit the nail on the head. Women are the glue. They are the glue that holds the family together. They are also the glue that holds the communities together. So if you are going to do projects in remote areas, especially, or whatever, you do need to engage with the women and give them a voice, because they are the only ones who know what they need. Men cannot tell you what you need. Women are the ones who know what they need. So if you do not participate in decision-making processes within your own community or higher up, people like Salmah, we need Salmah up on the board, making the plans, advising the government from your expertise, what needs to be done. So it should trickle all the way down, bottom up, I would say, but top down too is possible, I guess. Yeah. Okay, we've got like 2 more minutes. I really think we've answered most of the questions. All right, let me see. Kusum has made a comment. Both presentations assert the need to look for partnerships outside the traditional water bureaucracy to civil society and private sectors as development partners. But some agencies seem to be still mired in a bureaucratic approach. That is certainly something that Joanne and I experienced with this project. And what kind of capacity building, awareness building is currently being done in Malaysia to create collaborative alliances to improve the situation? Salmah, maybe that should come from you.
I would think not enough is done vis-a-vis what have been going on. But moving forward, we are looking in what we are doing now, in developing under the 12th Malaysia Plan, for example, we have 7 game changes, new game changes. And one of them is AACB, awareness, advocacy, awareness creation, and capacity building. And that we want to develop almost immediately and implementing it immediately. And to reach, I think we are talking about maybe at least 10% in 12 Malaysia Plan. So we'd like to see that happening, because at the moment, when you look at water management in Malaysia, even in the urban areas, you find the rivers very polluted. I am actually very upset with what is happening in many of the industrial areas like Pasir Gudang, even Kuala Lumpur, Damansara. Things that can be done. It's not that we cannot do it. We just do not know what we did, and we have to move forward from there. And that's what I'm hoping that we can do almost immediately into the 12th Malaysia Plan.
All right. So, right. Thank you very much, panelists. I think we have come to the end of our presentation. I think you'll all agree that this was an excellent case study, a lot of useful pointers to learn from, and a lot of thought-provoking answers and questions, giving us ideas on the way forward. And I would like to give a huge round of applause to all our panelists for providing so much interesting discussion here today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, or morning, as the case may be. See you at the next webinar. And once again, a huge thank you to our sponsors, Stockholm Environmental Institute, for sponsoring this event and the ongoing events leading up to the conference, which will be held on the 2nd and 3rd of November. Take care and stay safe, all of you. Bye-bye.
Bye.